In today's video, I'm going to be talking about some of the reactions that we've been getting from the community in regards to the new expansion pack, the new DLC expansion for Mortal Kombat 1. In case you guys didn't know, Chaos Reigns is going to be a new DLC expansion coming to Mortal Kombat 1 that includes new characters, a new story mode expansion, animalities, and some free skins. You're going to be getting free skins if you pre-order the Chaos Reigns expansion pack. Animalities come for free. The expansion comes in with the paid DLC content, and you're going to be getting Ghostface, Conan the Barbarian, T-1000, Sektor, Cyrax, gender-bent versions of the characters, and Noob Saibot. And there's been a lot of different reactions to this DLC expansion, some good and some bad. And in this video, like I said, I'm going to be going over some of those reactions. I went over on Twitter and I asked you guys, hey, let me know what you guys think on this DLC expansion, and I'll respond to it in a YouTube video. And I got so many responses. I very much appreciate that. If you're not following me on Twitter or X, I'm not going to call it X. And if you guys aren't following me on Twitter, go ahead and do so. It's at BrusquePoet, same as my YouTube name. And yeah, so thank you all so much for sending in your responses. There was a lot of them. I'm not going to go through every single one of them, but I'll go through as many as I can. And the first one that I'm going to go over is from one of my MK mutuals, whatever you want to say, whatever kind of lingo you want to use, Bacho, who says, I think the Mortal Kombat characters that they chose for the pack are great. Noob, Sektor, and Cyrax are always a pleasure to have, even when they've been MK1'd. And I'm not joking when I say this, but I really think that this was the worst guest lineup we've seen. Ghostface came into the series way too late. He should have been an X. Conan is just super random, and I feel like I've only seen two people in my life unironically toss the idea around. And T-1000 is the one that perplexes me the most. Like, who are you and why are you here? I made my own thread on my opinion about each and every single thing revealed. Made it very broad though, to save time. And all in all, I'm mostly hyped for the story expansion because I'm manifesting that the game ends in a reboot. You know what? Objectively speaking, it's very stupid, but I really am not a fan of this timeline already. We're in the first game and I'm just like, I'm not interested in this timeline. So yes, even if this game ends in a reboot, MK11 ended in a reboot to set up Mortal Kombat 1, a whole brand new timeline. And it would be so funny if MK1 ends in another reboot so that MK12 can open up a new timeline. I mean, look, again, I hate timelines. I hate the multiverse shit for Mortal Kombat. It doesn't work, but I don't like this timeline. Let's restart again, please. But you know what? Yeah, no, I also do agree that objectively speaking on paper, Sektor, Cyrax, and Noob are really good choices to have in a Mortal Kombat game. I think the cyborgs are, no matter who they are, or no matter which one you choose, I think that they are kind of a requirement to have in every single Mortal Kombat roster. They're just too iconic. Anytime they're not on the roster, you know what people are going to be asking for? They're going to be asking for Sektor and Cyrax. Every single time they're going to. And you know what? They have been, because we haven't had the Sektor and Cyrax in a Mortal Kombat game since Mortal Kombat 9. Mortal Kombat X does not count because that was Triborg and they were variations and it wasn't even the characters. It was somebody who looks like the characters and somebody who plays like the characters, but it wasn't the characters. Mortal Kombat 11 doesn't count because, well, they weren't even playable, number one. Number two, the cyborg representation in there was Cyberfrost, and nobody likes Cyberfrost. And MK1, I'm going to say, yeah, I mean, it did give representation, but it isn't the full representation. It isn't the full version of the character because it's just a cameo. I do think cameos are important, and I think they do count. They do count as having the character within the game because you're playing as the character. They have their own brutalities. They have their own fatality. So there's a lot of life within those characters. They're just missing dialogue and things like that, and maybe some story scenes. But because it's been so long since we've seen the Sektor, the Cyrax, and then for you to gender bend those characters to give female representation when there could have been other females that you could have chosen from, like Cassie Cage, Scarlet, Jade. Those are some great choices that you could have picked from, but instead you picked traditionally known iconically known. I mean, they're not iconic because of, because of their gender, but we know Sektor and Cyrax as male characters, and to say actually no, never mind, they're female characters, it's like, can we finally get just the Sektor, the Cyrax? Like, come on. Again, I'm not one of those types of people to get super mad when certain pieces of media changes traditionally known, male characters or female characters, and then gender bends them, because most of the time it really doesn't matter. I do think that there are certain times where it's legitimately a problem, like actually that's kind of stupid that you did that, but most of the time, like 99% of the time, it's totally fine. This time it's like, it's kind of There's a really good argument to be a little bit upset about this. I understand it. I hear it. But at the same time, are they going to play well? Are they going to be fun to play? And I think that's what's going to matter for like 90% of Mortal Kombat players at the end of the day, is that like, hey, if I'm having fun with the character, yeah, I may not like that, that they're not the actual versions of the character that I have traditionally known for 20 plus years, or 30 plus years actually this time around. It's crazy to think, even though I wasn't alive back then. But I'm having fun, and if they have fun, that's great. Ghostface coming into the series way too late, I can kind of see that argument, because the horror kind of icon, the horror aesthetic, was Mortal Kombat X's thing, and not necessarily Mortal Kombat necessarily Mortal Kombat 1's thing. I think what they're trying to do with Mortal Kombat 1, though, is trying to just give like a culmination of all the different genres. I think that's what Ed Boon even said, and I kind of just get that from the choices that they're making. So I'm fine with it. I mean, personally for me, I love Ghostface. Ghostface is one of my favorite slashers. I like Scream. And as you've seen before, I shared in my previous video where I sat down in this very same spot and I shared my own opinion on the entire expansion pack. I dress up as Ghostface when I go to Raider games. And so there's a connection there for me, and I'm really excited about it. When it comes to Conan and T-1000, I said this in my last video, though, I can understand the off-put that you get, like the random, the questioning kind of reaction that you would get from seeing Conan the Barbarian and the T-1000 in a Mortal Kombat game. The generation that these characters come from the generation that the original Mortal Kombat came in. The original fans of the series know these characters and have an attachment to these characters. But people in my generation, Gen Z, maybe no, I think millennials probably have some sort of connection to them. But Gen Z specifically, where a lot of the fan base, that's where a lot of the fan base is right now. I can understand why a lot of those people just have a weird reaction. Like, why would you put these characters in? They don't feel relevant. There hasn't been a good Terminator movie. There definitely has not been a Conan movie in I don't even know how many years. I understand it, but remember, this is an appeal to the time of the original Mortal Kombat game, the era of the original Mortal Kombat game. This game is called Mortal Kombat 1, and a love letter to that game. Whether they did it right or wrong, that's a totally different conversation, but that's exactly what this game is. And so I also understand why they chose these characters, and I kind of get it. I mean, for me personally, I'm thinking to myself, why wouldn't Mortal Kombat, NetherRealm, WB appeal to their original base, the one that got them started, the reason why they are here today? Why do they not deserve some sort of appeal? Why is it always us that needs to deserve an appeal? This next one comes from CyberLig. Motherfuckers, when characters like Kira or Su Hao, that's Tu Hao. I mean, I know what he tried to say there. Su Hao are not in Combat Pack 2, and it's just a Homelander meme of him having a mental breakdown. Yeah, I do think that, I mean, it's an exaggeration, but I do think that there's a little bit too much of an obsession with having these obscure characters in Mortal Kombat games. One of the things on my bio on Twitter is 3D era advocate. A lot of those 3D era characters are obscure, but there comes a certain point where I'm just like, okay, look, I don't think we should prioritize Su Hao over like Ghostface or something like that. It just doesn't make sense business-wise. It doesn't make sense in terms of what makes a better roster. Having obscure characters for the sake of having obscure characters is not the way to go. You know, there are ways to do it right, because there are some legitimately really good characters that are still obscure, like Shujinko. Shujinko's a great obscure character who has a lot of potential, and even though he's not on the main roster, I'm glad that he is on the cameo side. Ashra can be kind of considered a obscure character to a lot of people. She isn't really known, but to a lot of hardcore Mortal Kombat fans, she is, and you're appealing to hardcore Mortal Kombat fans, and that's great. And Ashra is one of those characters that actually has a lot going for her, instead of just being this really weird, obscure joke character and things like that. Super Dude says, I'd like my comment shared. I, for one, am excited for Conan. It's a childhood nickname, and it means a lot for me to see it playable in one of my favorite franchises. The new character reimaginings look good too. Hey, somebody's a fan of the new character, the MK1 versions of Sektor, Cyrax, and Noob, Saibot. But hey, here's an example of somebody who has a connection to Conan the Barbarian and really is excited to see that character within a Mortal Kombat game. Again, I think there's something for everybody here. Sly Ghost says, I'm a huge Sektor and Cyrax fan, and I welcome any chance to play as them, even if it's a new interpretation of them. They look fun, and the designs look cool still. Noob Saibot looks sick, and I love how Havoc turned him. Overall, not bad. I say 7 out of 10. Still don't like the 3 guests. Yeah, there's a lot of people who don't like guest characters, no matter who the guest characters are. There are a lot of people who just want Mortal Kombat characters, and I'm on that boat too. You know, if given the chance, I will always pick a Mortal Kombat character over a guest character, but there are certain guest characters that I'm like, okay, yeah, I actually kind of want that guest character. I want to see them in Mortal Kombat. But hey, look, that's awesome that there's a actual genuine Sektor and Cyrax fan here that's like, yeah, I'm fine with the change. I just want to play as the character, and I want to have fun. And I said this earlier, I think that's where most people are. I think a lot of people are just waiting overall, ultimately, even though they may not say it, they may not think about it, but I think at the end of the day, if they are fun to play, they're going to just stick with the characters. But I mean, it doesn't mean that the storyline is great or anything like that, but as long as they get to have fun, that's all that really matters to them. Rather negative, unfortunately. I do love the fact that Noob is in, and even though I don't like guests, I really do like Ghostface. But that's it. I absolutely hate gender swap cyborgs, and it's a reboot or they're from a different timeline aren't excuses for me. It's a 4 out of 10. Yeah, it goes back to the whole change for the sake of change. I don't like that excuse too much. I can see, like, there are times where I think it's a legitimate argument to make, where it's like, hey, look, this is a different timeline. You don't have to get mad at this particular thing. But I think overall, I think you fall too much in the trap of like, oh, it's different, it's change, it's a change, why, like, it's a different version, it's a different thing, take it for what it is. And I like, okay, I understand what you're saying, but also it doesn't make it good just because it's change. So yeah, I think this person is definitely on board with that kind of notion. Sai Kosher Dill says, the roster itself is okay, but it worries me greatly for the future. KP1, we had 3 MK characters from different eras and guests people actually wanted. This one doesn't have that. All arcade characters, Ghostface and Conan being the highlights. This is marketable combat, not Mortal Kombat. I mean, I sort of understand this, but I think saying that, oh, all the different characters came from different eras, yeah, that's cool. There's one from the arcade era, there's one from the 3D era in Quan Chi, and then there's one from the new era in Takeda. But I do think that, like, overall, if you're gonna pick from one era, it's probably gonna have to be the 2D era, the trilogy era. And those are some of the most iconic Mortal Kombat characters. Like, are we really gonna be mad that, like, some of the best characters in the series are going to be in the game and are on the roster? I don't know. I don't think it's worth getting mad at. I can understand the guest characters and all that kind of stuff. It seems like this guy is definitely on the board of like, I don't care for guest characters. I want more Mortal Kombat characters. These guest characters are taking up the slot. Look, guys, I totally get it. I am on your side with that 100%. I used to be super, super heavily anti-guest, but at this point in time, I'm just like, look, it's just gonna happen. They're gonna be there. There's no changing it. They make way too much money for there to be ever some sort of reconsideration on whether we should include, whether they're going to include guest characters or not, or limit the amount of guest characters that are going to be in the game. It's just not going to happen. So at this point in time, I'm like, okay, fine. Guest characters, they're going to be there. They're going to take up half of those. They're going to take up half of the roster slots when it comes to the DLC lineup. All the time. It's just going to happen. So let me look at what are we going to get? Like what? Okay, let's make the Mortal Kombat characters that we are going to get, make them the best choices. I actually do think that we have got the best choices. We got 2 classic characters. I know they're different versions of the characters, Sektor and Cyrax. And then we got another classic character in Noob Saibot, who mostly looks and plays the same. Boraicho says, it feels weird bringing in Noob now. There's no Sub-Zero to replace Bihan, so either he's going to turn back immediately or they'll have no Sub-Zero next game. I don't care about Sektor and Cyrax being girls. I'm dissatisfied with the fact that they're not fully cyborgs. We used to have so many. Yeah, that is actually an interesting point. Like, what happens with a new Sub-Zero? Like, Bihan is turning into Noob Saibot, so who's the Sub-Zero? Now, we all know that when Noob Saibot no longer is, or when Bihan is no longer Sub-Zero, Kuai Liang becomes the new Sub-Zero. But Kuai Liang in this timeline is Scorpion. Is Hanzo Hasashi going to be the new Sub-Zero? Oh, God. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to go back to Bacho's comment when he said that I hope this timeline ends in a reboot at the end of the Mortal Kombat 1 story expansion. Yeah, because I don't know if I want to see Hanzo Hasashi as Scorpion. I don't know if I want to see that. That's just going to be... Please don't do that. Please don't freaking do that. So what do you guys think about the things that I covered over into this video? Do you guys agree with the comments, or do you guys disagree with the comments? Or what do you guys think? Leave it in this comment section below. One thing that I would like to remind you all is that I do have a Discord server. So if you guys would like to talk about the things that are going on in Mortal Kombat, or things that are going on in movies, TV, things that are not related to Mortal Kombat, and things around the world, my Discord community is right there for you. The link is in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you drop a big thumbs up and subscribe, because it really does help out my channel. And if you want to see more videos like this, definitely do that, because you're going to get more if I get that support with your like and your subscription. I'll see you guys next time.